Hello, welcome to AB Lifetime, channel on transpersonal psychology. Our topic today is Sociometry and Psychodrama in India, interview with Jochen Becker. And hello, Dr. Jochen.
First time that I speak out on this. You are the first to hear the news officially, and in this video will be the first where it is published.
Wow!
I find out 150 pages of letters of Moreno. These are the photocopies of it. Between Mr. Moreno and Serka Moreno and Indian experts.
So, just a little short prehistory. We originally scheduled this interview in Chicago, and it's supposed to be happening 78th Psychodrama Conference, and the conference, because of this coronavirus, was cancelled. And we still decided to do it, this interview, and I'm very grateful for you, Dr. Becker, to do this with me. And I'm right now in Monterey, California. We do it via Zoom. I'm in Monterey, California, and Dr. Jochen is in Hamburg, Germany. So we have 9 hours difference. And it's interesting that originally we scheduled this interview on April 2nd in Chicago. And if we would be doing this interview, we would be doing it somewhere at this time in Chicago, and right now we're doing it here online. Yeah. All right, so to just start with our interview, could you please say how psychodrama came to India, and what is the history of psychodrama development in India? So
we decided to speak first about psychodrama in India, and this is a more theoretical topic. So it is not, it is speaking about something, it's not doing psychodrama. So first what we do is to speak a little bit about it. And psychodrama came to India, I believe, much more before Moreno. Not as a name of psychodrama, but people, they want to act, they want to do something in India, they want to express themselves. We know the Indian dance, we know the wish of small Indian children to disguise as gods. That is very similar what Moreno also did. He liked to play God when he was a little child, and every Indian boy and girl likes to play Krishna, likes to play Shiva, all this. So they do a lot of role reverse with their gods, and they do a lot of play and a lot of acting. But psychodrama as such, and in fact it was not psychodrama, it was sociometry which came to India first. Sociometry came in the early 1950s to India because of the international sociometric movement. And some scholars which had been famous in India, and they had been working at the most famous universities at that time in Mumbai, which is at that time called Bombay, and at Ahmedabad, they wrote about sociometry. So the first article on sociometry, according to Moreno, was written in 1958. And even before, some scholars went to the West. So there was the founder of the most famous, which is now called NIMHANS, the National Institute of Mental Health and Sciences. He was sent to the West to learn about psychiatry and new ways how to do psychiatry. We have to see there was a coincidence between Moreno's wish to expand beyond United States and the wish of some Indians after Gandhi, after separation from the Britons, to develop something by their own. So the most important scholars were sent to London and to Washington, and one scholar was the founder of this Institute of NIMHANS. He was sent first to London, where he might have met Moreno. That is not very sure if he met Moreno, but he was sent to London to that hospital, mental hospital, where psychodrama was used, and there was a stage in London. And then he was sent to St. Elizabeth's in 1952 And when he came back from that place in 1954, he created a stage in India. So the first psychodrama stage in India was built in 1954, and this professor had an idea to do psychodrama in India.
Is it that stage which you mentioned for me somewhere in email? Is it in Bangalore?
Yeah, it's in Bangalore. At that time, this was called Indian Institute of Mental Health, IIMH, which is now called NIMHANS. So this stage is still available. And the older professors of this university, they know very well that this stage was meant for psychodrama. It is called Arts Theatre. And I've written a book which will be launched in August. And in August, this book will be launched in this Arts Theatre of NIMHANS. So we will have a book presentation, my first English language book on psychodrama, together with Falco von Ameln. It's the Foundations of Psychodrama, will be launched at that place. So this was one of the first incidences. Then we had some more interaction. Also the All Indian Institute of Mental Sciences, a very famous psychiatrist, he came and learned from Moreno at New York, and he established his idea, Moreno's, of the idea of living community and social outreach of psychiatry. This is also influence of Moreno to India. Yeah. And the next influence is more in the social work. So the TIS, the Tata Institute of Social Services, very early in the 1960s started to develop sociometry in TIS. And from there it went to IIMA, the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. So it is not went to the psychiatrists only, it went to social work, it went to management. But then in the end, as nobody could bridge the long way between India and United States and live there for a long time, people stopped. No one was educated fully. So they had some ideas how psychodrama could be done, but nobody learned it properly. So then in this wave between 1954 and 1965, it all collapsed again. And people did on their own way. A second wave came when some other, like Professor Parekh and Pulling-Gorg, they went to United States, they met Moreno, they learned from him, Pulling-Gorg, maybe not with Moreno, with others, and they established some idea of psychodrama which was more like acting out. Now we are in the 1970s. So there was a reasonable group of people 20 years later who established psychodrama in the whole field of management. We cannot understand at our time the importance why psychodrama should be on management, but they used it for team development, they used it for team dynamics, but they didn't get so much supported from the psychodrama world because psychodrama is totally focusing on psychiatry and psychology and psychotherapy. So nobody supported them properly. And then they went off to Tavistock. They changed from psychodrama to Tavistock. Only some people remained. So the first book on psychodrama was written in 1973 on psychodrama. Until then, 5 articles had been written. All this is totally forgotten, and I would not have discovered it if I would not have went to Boston to the Library of Harvard to find out, and I found out a lot of letters. I find out 150 pages of letters of Moreno. These are the photocopies of it. Between Mr. Moreno and Serka Moreno and Indian experts. So I asked the two living, the daughter and the son of JL, do they know something about Moreno and India? And then they said nothing. There will be nothing. And then I said, but I have so much evidence. So many letters your father and with your mother wrote to Indians. And they said, we didn't know. So I informed them, they said, oh yes, they are curious. So if I would have come to United States, I would have met them, we could have discussed it. This was the second part. The first part, 1950s, the second, 1970s. Moreno wrote a lot of letters to prepare the conferences, conference in Barcelona, in Paris, in so many places, and he wrote a lot of letters, and before he published the proceedings in psychotherapy. So he wrote a lot of letters to Indian experts because he wanted to gather material from all that people to find out what it is. Next year my book will be out. So Springer has given me the opportunity to publish a series of books together with some other people. And I will write in this series of books, and my book will be out next year on these issues. It's 50% ready.
Such a great, I mean, nobody knows this, and you are doing such great research on that. Wow.
The first psychodrama institutes in Germany started in the 1970s, and by then psychodrama had been known in India, but had been forgotten. So now we take a jump to the 1990s. There was one lady, she also hadn't been a psychotherapist. She was a potter, artist. She did artistry on potter, like a pots. Yeah, and a social activist. She was very political. Maybe she was difficult with some, I don't know what. But she was a student of Serka Moreno. There are some pictures where you find Primula Pandit, that's her name, Primula Pandit going to United States. And Primula Pandit had been the first Indian-born psychodramatist with a certificate from Serka Moreno. And she came again and again there, and in Beacon she met Dages, Leif Dag Blomqvist. So between Leif Dag Blomqvist and Serka Moreno, there is a discussion in one of their books where he did an interview with Serka on India and some findings. So I came in contact with a person, Leif Dag Blomqvist passed away in 2008, as I believe. But I just now spoke 3 months back to his life partner. He has a life partner, American, who is now Mark, who is now living in Germany since many years. So we spoke to each other, and he confirmed all this. But Leif Dag didn't go by his own. He went together with Savita Dhawan. And Savita Dhawan is a German psychotherapist and psychodramatist in the TEP, like Leif Dag Blomqvist. So Savita Dhawan was India-born, but with her parents she left India early and traveled around, and she is now German national. And she came to India in 1996, together with Leif Dag to teach. And in 1997, a formal institute called Indian Institute Psychodrama, which was then renamed. And this is the first brochure. I show you here, and I show you here. You can see it is called the Moreno Institute of India. So they got the permission of Serka Moreno to name it the Moreno Institute of India. And among others, Serka Moreno is one of the trainers who was about to come. These are the trainers who went to India. I've sent you a picture.
Yes.
So Savita Dhawan, Primula Pandit, Leif Dag Blomqvist, Serka, and Elaine Sachnov.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know Elaine. I don't know. That had been the trainers of this institute. This institute was formed in 1997, and for 6 years they give psychodrama training. I have a lot of letters, old letters of Serka, and Serka has a plan, had the plan of 1998 to come to India, but they could not arrange on the flight cost. J.L. Moreno and Serka Moreno had the plan to come to India. There, in the letters, there are several letters preparing a journey in 1961 of Mr. and Mrs. Moreno to go to India. And again in 1967. Both times they did not realize. So neither of the children of J.L. knew about it. It's all just through finding, through incidental I went through some Indian libraries, find out the old papers. So that's the first, by the way, it's the first time that I speak out on this. You are the first to hear the news officially, and in this video will be the first where it is published.
Wow, wow. So, sounds great, wow.
Yeah, because you asked me on what we should speak, and I said on this we speak. So this was on 1996 to 2002. And then there was again a gap. It again collapsed. Primula Pandit was not very good in organizing it. It again collapsed, but some students continued. So I met one professor, one lady from TIS, from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and she said, oh yes, I had been a participant at that time with Savita Dhawan. I know her name. So now I meet, and there is another lady, Sushma, and with her I'm doing my training now at Mumbai. There's a training in September, and she also was trained by Savita many years back, 20 years back. So that is a part of the history. Maybe there's more history, but it's a lot of history found out which had not been, I think it's nowhere written that there is a history, and if even both the children of JL didn't know about it. By the way, Regina was married to an Indian person. Did you know it?
No.
Yeah, her name, her Zacharias, is an Indian name, South Indian from Kerala. Yeah.
You know, it's so interesting because I didn't know this part at all. I didn't have any idea about this. And thank you for sharing. I think this is it's just something very important. And thank you for all your research. I'm just trying to imagine how much time and effort you put in that to discover this all. So could you please say your story? How are you connected to this? How you started to do this research?
Yeah. I'm a Roman Catholic priest, so that is my first profession. I did a PhD in Roman Catholic priesthood, and I did not follow with the church for long because with organizations sometimes I have a hard time, and I felt that what I wanted to be a priest for, they could not offer it to me. And I left them quite early. And then in this time, and even before I went to India, so I had a time where I followed a guru. Like some people follow some gurus, so I had a guru. I felt a need of having a guru. And it also had not been the best decision in my life to handing over my own responsibility to some human being. Of course, he didn't believe to be human. He believed to be a god, like Moreno himself also did. But one has to find one's own way about it. And I came to know about India when I was 14. I was crazy in reading books about India. Everyone told me to be crazy. I read Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha, and similar books. But I was very crazy on that. I started with meditation very early. I haven't spoken to this. You cannot find in my biography that I had been a priest, because I feel shy, because when people know that I had been a priest, then they say he must be crazy. Some people say. Others have a certain idea. When I say I had a guru, some people will say, oh, he must be crazy. But I left both. I left the guru, I left the church, but I didn't leave the idea of the guru, and that was Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta means to be the self. And this was my main objective. We also did some theater there in India, and from 1985 to 1995 I stayed every winter for 3 months in India. My mother has a house there in India, so she also came to India, not only me, also my mother, and the house was built for her, a small house, just one-room house. So we both stayed at separate houses, little small houses there in India, every winter for meditation purposes. From 1996 to 1999, I stayed for 3 years, and I was in charge, apart from meditation, of a social service organization called Sri Ramana Maharshi Research and Development Trust. which was linked to the Shantimalai Trust and to the Ramana Ashram at Tiruvannamalai. I lived at Tiruvannamalai, altogether 6 years. So Nana Kunchum, Tamil Pisakareen, I speak a little Tamil. That is what I learned, but normally I spoke English to the people. This is my experience there, and then when I decided, later I worked in Germany, I work in medical education. I run a company on medical education with 30 people staff in Germany. And when I became a little bored in 2010, I decided to go back to India and do some work there. Meanwhile, I learned psychodrama. I was being a trainer of psychodrama since 2008. And 2011, 2012, I started to give psychodrama training in India. So this has happened. Why it came? Because I love India. So India is great for me. I feel very much connected. There had been times in my life when I liked India and loved India more than I do love to go back to Germany.
Wow.
Yeah. Started psychodrama. I worked together for one day with Magdalene, who has the institute in Chennai, but seemingly she had some other ideas, and I worked together with Mr. Dr. T.T. Srinath. He learned with many people, also with Ron Weiser, and he is one of the most famous and most known psychodrama students in India. And he organized a group for me at Chennai. So I started a group of 10 people at Chennai. And then later somebody else started to have a group prepared for me at Bangalore. So from there it started. Now we are running 5 groups in 4 cities, and normally they have 12 to 18, sometimes 20 members.
So right now you are doing, it's like clientele group or it's educational groups or both?
I only do education. Since the last 20 years of my life, I'm an educationalist. I did not study psychotherapy or psychology or medicine. So I sometimes give something what people call that would be therapy, but I don't, I don't meet the people regularly because I'm 4 months in a year, I'm in India. So every 3 months I go to India for 1 full month.
Okay.
Yeah. And the earning I have from my German medical educational company, I take to subsidize my Indian work. So in India it's a break even, but the first 5 years it had not been. I had to subsidize it the first 5 years. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you mentioned that you started to do online groups because of this coronavirus. You started to do online, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think right now I'm very happy that we're doing this online interview because it looks like it's just everything is going to turn into online.
I am so fully against online learning in psychodrama, so much, and I say it's not possible. It's not adequate. So coronavirus is teaching me a lot. And of course, people like Daniela and others, they help me to understand and to go on Zoom. It's not my inclination. I don't like it. I'm a person on direct contact, so I'm really suffering. But it's coronavirus told me, so I was in the middle of a medical education week with 5 days. And on the evening of the first day, the German government told no more education in direct education in Germany. They stopped all educational work. It was before they stopped the bars and the restaurants, they stopped the education. So we had another 4 days. So the next day we just started with Zoom meetings. And then from there I transported it to psychodrama. And from there, I thought about myself how to create a stage, like I have the stage up here with my fruits. So I asked the people, we will do it later, I asked the people to create a stage in their room, and then I instruct them to go in their stage. So it's working. It's not nice. It is not nice. It's very difficult. It gives a headache for me. But what to do? Yeah.
I know, I know exactly. It's just, again, it's just practice. With practice, more you practicing, it might work better and better. And could you please say what are the typical issues of psychodrama in a new country about India?
Yeah, of course, in every new country they asked what is the certification, what it is good for, if it is our tradition to have it, is it coming from Jewish Americans? Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. So, yeah, and with my findings, which I will publish very soon, it is known that it is not new to India. It's 72 years old coming to India, so that is already a little bit helpful. Yeah, so we will see that one part. But why Indians like it? They like theater, they like play. And some of the methodologies which I developed is because they like colors. So I have a colorful morning round. That means everyone is standing in a circle like a rainbow. And we stand in colors and we express ourselves. How do I feel? Why I picked this cloth, this dress today, this sari today, to put myself into this. How did I feel when I prepared myself in the morning to come here to the meeting? And we always have meeting of 4 days. So as I come only 4 times a year, we meet 4 days in a stretch. So I can ask easily on the 2nd day, 3rd day, why I picked this cloth. And that's an emotional part. People speak about why I put myself in red or in yellow or in blue. And it's always related to some emotion. Never mind, or yes, I feel happy today, or it's my favorite dress, or my husband gave it to me for the anniversary, or many things. Yeah, so there's always a story connected to that dress. So this we do, it's a different way of warming up in the morning. And this you can only do in the West, because when I do it in Hamburg, most people will come in blue jeans. So if all on the blue side, then what to do? Yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah. So that is one typical new things, but the other is a very stiff family system. It's not that the adults between 30 and 50 are stiff with their children. They have the feeling of needing to be stiff because their parents or grandparents want it. So it's a family tradition. So this, even Serka Moreno and Leif Darius Blomqvist, they spoke about it and they wrote about it in this book. So in my book, I will elaborate a little more about the stiffness of a family pattern and how to overcome the cultural preserve. Yeah, that is a very important issue. And in this is also the stiffness of the gender. So I was working with one lady, she is in management. Most of my students in India are not psychotherapists. Why? Because psychotherapy is not a profession in India. We cannot imagine. We always think about psychotherapy, very important. But there is no profession like psychotherapy, because any kind of mental sickness is believed to be a stigma. So nobody will go to psychotherapists. They go to psychiatrists to get medicine to calm it down, or they will hide it in the family. So they don't like. So they call it life coaching or counseling. Counseling is okay, but psychotherapy is not. It's only now coming. It's a very new profession to India. There is a medical council, there's a nursing council, there is no psychotherapy council so far. It's on the way to become, and there are only 4 or 5 universities who teach psychotherapy in a population of 1.3 billion people. Yeah. So my students mostly are coaches and counselors. So they coach also professional issues. So the issue was that one lady was offered a promotion in the company, but she had a little child. And the psychodramatist, the learning psychodrama student, that she was working with her about feeling of grief, feeling of guilt, leaving the child, and in the end the lady took a decision to stay at home. Problem solved. But she didn't take a decision to ask her husband to stay at home, because the husband would have earned much less. But this is not adequate to with younger people, the husband always should earn more or be more important than the wife. So the wife, who was very brilliant, forsakes the possibility. So I worked out on this issue. Yeah? And then there is a lot of sexual violation in India. I'm very sorry about it. So maybe it's the same in the West. But in India, out of my students, 80% of them got violated sexually and abused in their childhood, and 20% of the female and 20% of the male. It's also with male, yeah? It's with male and female. So there's a lot of trauma. Therefore, I asked Kate Hutchins to send people. So Karin Drucker and Stephen Durost, I'm very happy they are coming since 2 years to India and teach my groups, teach my students on trauma therapy once a year for four days each in Bangalore and Delhi. And they committed for the next 2 years also to come. So I'm very blessed to have Stephen and Karin to come to India and teach. And I think Kate also has announced her visit to India in 2022. I think that's the most important, what is really new. It's to set up a system. And many people believe in having one workshop and another workshop and one more workshop and getting a lot of important and known people to India and teach. I believe the most important is a group, because psychodrama is a group experience. So the group must be stable, and also for a stable group you need a stable trainer. That is the reason why I committed myself for the last 8 years of my life to come to India for 4 times in a year for each a month. It's a big life commitment. It's not, and it's also financial commitment. It's also, you see, I can run my company, my German company, I can run it from India in the evenings. So my people are still working when I'm in India. They are accustomed to it now. They even feel more responsible to do their work, and they do teaching. I'm a teacher in palliative care, end-of-life care. And my students too, my people who work for me too. So we teach nurses and medical doctors on that. That is my income giving here. Okay, let us go.
And so could you please describe how psychodrama and Indian spirituality are connected?
Yeah, they are not connected at all. Yeah, there is no proof that Mr. Moreno has learned anything of Advaita Vedanta. And there is no proof that Advaita Vedanta has learned anything of psychodrama. By the way, Advaita Vedanta is older. But I can, you see, I can have these glasses which are round, and I have, where are the other glasses? There are one more glasses. And I can have these glasses. Yeah? These glasses are different than these glasses. Yeah? They are both glasses.
Yes, right.
Yeah? So if this would be the Jewish, Christian, Western glasses to see psychodrama out of the view of the time of Mr. Moreno, one can change it and one can put on Advaita glasses, Advaita Vedanta glasses. Yeah? So some people say, no, it's not possible. When did Moreno speak about that? Yeah? I had a workshop in the last ISGP meeting in New Hampshire. And some people wrote in the evaluation, what he is teaching is not proper psychodrama like J.L. taught us. Then of course not. If I would teach still 70 years after Moreno, the same.
Yeah.
It would be very boring. So I'm just combining the two. I'm interweaving, my English is bad. You can understand. Also, your English might be not first language.
Yeah, my first language is Russian.
Yeah, my first language is German, and my English is very simple. So I'm interweaving it. I try to change these glasses to that glasses. And I try to put on the other glasses and ask myself, can we explain psychodrama with the other philosophy behind. And I found out, yes, it's possible. And I found out even that Mr. Moreno took some pictures from Indian philosophy unknowingly. Unknowingly. It's a picture of getting out the eye and giving it to the other to see. It's a very famous picture of one of the most beloved Kanapa. If you go to a Shiva temple, there will be always the Kanapa, the eye, the god, the devotee of Shiva who cut out his eye to grant it to Shiva, that Shiva can see better. So he was exchanging the eye and cutting it out. So this is the cutting out of the eye. And a lot of things, especially on the self, there had been different issues, how Moreno understood the self. But there is this inner healing center, or it's very close to the concept of Atma, Atman and Atma. And the last thing which I only discovered in this year is the focus on creativity. I always misunderstood creativity to be Brahma, but that is my idea of male gods. The creativity, of course, is the female gods, the Kali in the north. So the female gods represent. So it is not very much known in our Western culture that a god could be female. Yeah, we always long for male gods. But the creativity idea of a godness was the idea of Moreno to be the central power of God, and this is adored in northeastern India as a Kali. And there are some temples. I just went this February to a temple in Assam, which is adored to be the creativity, God, pure creativity and erotic sexuality. That's adored there. Yeah, it's very special. It was very powerful. I love sometimes to go to temples. So it's interwoven, and in the same book, which I already announced 3 times, so a lot of advertising for this book, I will write about the interaction of spirituality and Advaita Vedanta with Moreno's idea in this psychodrama, and especially focusing on the self, how to develop the self. If it is an adding or a subtracting or just discovery. So the Advaita Vedanta is more a discovery of that what is already there. So it's the idea of Moreno. He said, I'm either a human being and I'm good for nothing, or I must be a god. So this decision to be a god or be a human being, I think you can understand it. No, the book I published this year